Good morning. I'm here to meet the vinyl community. I'm going to read out the second chapter of Summit at Paramount. Here we go. Gutowski recalled that strenuous efforts to staunch the flow of already leaking secrets at Cielo Drive got into high gear that very day. Shortly after Polanski and Gutowski's jet-lag meeting with We Told K, Paramount chief Robert Evans summoned his mentor, Bob Arney, Supreme Sidney K. Korshak, to Paramount Studios on Melrose Avenue. Korshak took Evans under his wing after they met playing tennis at the Racket Club in Palm Beach in 1955. The producer remained his loyal lackey to the end, despite his never explaining fallout later in life. Evans' unrestrained eulogy at Korshak's funeral in 1996 says it all. From the 40s to the 70s, organized crime was by one person, and no one knew it. He was totally legitimate, and he was not mafia. The mafia went to him. He could press a button and close down Las Vegas. The country was Sidney's, and I was his godson. Dapper and poised as ever, the gentleman gangster Korshak arrived at Julie Andrews' vacant dressing room at Paramount, where a meeting with Polanski, Evans, and himself. Other company executives Gutowski preferred not to name were in attendance. Korshak, the arch fixer whose more public euphemisms included labor relations negotiator, mystery man, and wheeler dealer, calmly appraised the situation. 5 people killed under the shady circumstances requiring some fighting, some financing. Nothing new to him. Shortly after his 1930 graduation from Chicago's DePaul University Law School, Korshak commenced his career in sub rosa crime cover-up by defending gangsters in Al Capone's syndicate, typifying his crooked clients' base forever after. Many more recently, in May of '69, only a few months before the Paramount meeting with Polanski, Korshak used his clout to misdirect the public from uncomfortable facts about the far more significant mob-related slayings. He tried to convince the FBI and book publisher that it would be a great idea if a '62 statement by mob boss Carlo Marcello, in which he outlined a plot to assassinate then President John F. Kennedy, were omitted from public view. Korshak was specialized in orchestrating smear campaigns to zip the lips of those who spoke inconvenient truths, succeeding in discrediting the source of the damaging conversations to the feds. As entire other book could be written on how many involved in the Tate LaBianca cover-up were also involved with the Kennedy cover-up, and will touch upon in due course. Despite Sidney Korshak's many contributions to the Kennedy cover-up, whose principles Lai knew personally, he still maintained friendly relations with Kennedy's slimy brother-in-law, Peter Lawford. One day of Sebring's dearest confidants and companions, Lawford was the middleman who delivered Sebring's drugs to Marilyn and Kennedy during their tryst at the home in Los Angeles. According to his suspiciously well-connected Virginia Graham, who was assigned the task of relaying Susan Atkins' scripted confessions to the police, she served as dominatrix to the cross-dressing, masochistic drug addict Lawford. Despite Lawford's intimate relations with Sebring, Tate, Graham, and many others related to the case, when he hosted an ABC Wide World of Entertainment special on the Manson crimes aired February 13th, 1975, the Rat Pack's rattiest rat disingenuously pretended to be an objective interviewer. Somehow, he's talking about Lawford. Somehow he entirely failed to mention that he deeply involved with the key personae in the case. Did Korshak preside over the Paramount meeting with Polanski of our goodness of his heart? Did Evans or Polanski pay him the astronomical fee he usually asked of his clients, or did he have his own reasons for devoting his comfortable resources to the cover-up? Springs' many links to Korshak's shadowy network of underworld clients and crime partners would have been motivation enough for the lawyers to have his own vested interest in obscuring incriminating aspects of the murders. For Peter Lawford wasn't the only fishy friend Korshak shared with the late hairstylist, a connection worth examining in some detail as we ponder the deep motivations for the lawyer's participation in the Cielo whitewash. Lawford and Korshak were romantically involved with Jill St. John, also girlfriend of Polanski, who he intended to play the lead in Sharon Tate's eventually took in Dance of the Vampires. As earlier mentioned, Jill St. John and her boyfriend George Lazenby, the James Bond of the moment, planned on visiting Cielo for reasons unknown on August 8th. The one of Korshak's mistresses was not only a former lover of Polanski, but was among the few who really did intend to drop in on Cielo Drive the night of the drop, and Watson murders made the attorney potentially privy to what inside knowledge of the whys and wherefores of the crime. And Jill St. John was far more the only person in Korshak's orbit in the position to enlighten him, which is what really led to the mystery murder perplexing all in Los Angeles that afternoon. The average Angelino hearing of the news that an actress and 4 others died in a supposed ritual killing, might have not heard of J. Sebring. The occasional movie magazine gossip about the starlet, this hairdresser to the stars, was dating that week, didn't make him a household name. However, some of his employees and many of his clients in the entertainment industry knew very well that dangerous business the barber conducted on the side. Several, including Dennis Hopper, specifically wondered why he ever showed up to deliver drugs promised to them after midnight. Putting 2 and 2 together on what happened at Cielo was not a hard equation to solve for those in the know. Sidney Korshak, who spanned every imaginable niche of the underworld, would certainly be able to make an educated guess as to why the well-known drug dealer might have ended up dead. Sebring and Korshak shared so many mutual mobster and showbiz friends in the swinging Sinatra set, it's hard to see how he could not have an inkling immediately. One of the most case relevant to Korshak's closest friends was Charles Babe Barron, B-A-R-O-N, who happened to be one of Sebring's main mob connections in the home away from Las Vegas. Manson cryptically and credibly enlisted that the mob was the hidden key to the Tate LaBianca. It's true that one of the most promising persons of interest we can follow that bloody trail to is Korshak and Sebring's mutual buddy, Babe Barron. 12 years before Sebring was snuffed in 1957, Korshak hosted Barron's extravagant 51st birthday party at a Tropicana hotel in Las Vegas. Korshak co-owned the ritzy property with the other hoodlum hoteliers. The various junctuaries in the underworld activities, Korshak and Barron took orders from syndicate kingpin Frank Costello. Young Charlie Manson served his underworld idol, Costello, devotion just a few years earlier during their mutual incarceration. Charlie never failed to cite his brief association with Costello behind bars in the 50s as a direct influence on the crimes that rocked the Los Angeles in 1969. Costello headed the conglomerate of crooks discreetly skimming millions from the Tropicana casino's gambling take. Babe Barron's criminal career kicked off in a good old Chicago days when Mayor Lansky and Al Capone ruled the Windy City Roost. A former prize boxer, bookie, and brutal loan officer who ran fixed gambling rackets at several casinos, Barron had to pull to elude conviction for no less than 2 of the many murders we know he committed. His first victim was James Walsh, a bootlegger he plugged in 29. In 33, he got away with murder again, this time for the 33 whacking of a funny movie financier known as Smiling Gus Winkler. In the 50s, during the Kaffer hearings, Kefauver, that alerted the American public to the full extent of organized crime power, Barron was publicly identified as the powerful Johnny Roselli's crime partner. Roselli, who knew Sebring through Frank Sinatra and served as mob muscle in Movieland for years, ended up dead before he could testify in the 75 hearings about what he knew about the Kennedy assassination. Sebring and Roselli were both present during the brutal incident in Nevada involving Frank Sinatra and Marilyn Monroe. Wonder what that was about. Shortly before the actress's mysterious passage, Baron Sebring and Korshak, mutual associate Peter Lawford, Jack Kennedy's brother-in-law, was also suspiciously entangled in Monroe's last hours, as was Lawrence Schiller, another important figure in the cover-up of the Tate LaBianca, who took an inordinate interest in the JFK assassination. If he wasn't a spook, I don't know what would be. Speaking of the Playboy president, Charles Baron was associated with Dallas hoodlum named showbiz journalist Tony Zopai, whose suspicious interactions with Lee Harvey Oswald's assassin Jack Ruby on November 22nd, 1963, piques the interest of researchers of the JFK murder to this day. In the 1970s, Ruby's long friend Zopai became the PR executive of the Riviera Hotel and Casino, where he often socialized with Barron, his counterpart at the Sands. Zopai was one of the Frank Sinatra's trusted inner circle. In 1978, the House Select Committee on Assassinations investigated mob ties to the JFK hit reported that 1 week after Kennedy was killed, Barron visited his friend General Curtis LeMay, was the star of How to Win the War, Daddy. Was sworn foe of the slain president, the notorious Sam Momo Giancana, frequently associated with the mafia background in the former ally Kennedy's death, authorized Barron as his personal representative in Vegas. Barron's credentials as a thug trusted by the who's who of organized crime are immaculate. Murder Incorporated boss Mayor Lansky chose Barron as general manager of his vice center, the Havana Riviera, when the mob controlled that island nation, Cuba. After Castro's revolution chased Yanqui, Y-E-N-Q-U-I, organized crime out of Cuba, Barron became a violent opponent of communism. Like many gangsters, Barron covered powerful government agencies at the right-wing advocate of law and order, free enterprise, and U.S. militarism. After attaining the rank of brigadier general in the Nevada National Guard, he liked to be called General Barron. After his forced expulsion from Cuba, he was employed for many years as the official greeter and PR rep at the Sands Hotel and Casino in the Vegas Strip, a ring of roosted ruled by Sinatra and his Rat Pack. It was in capacity that Korshak's well-connected associate, Babe Barron, befriended the enterprising Jay Sebring. The Candyman flew from Los Angeles to the desert playground every 3 weeks to work his hair sculpting magic on the head of Frank Sinatra, Sammy Davis Jr., Dean Martin, and as well as several of the Strip's top casino owners. Babe was one of Sebring's customers and soon was one of his closest friends. The Sebring and Barron pulled around was well known in Vegas entertainment circles as the time of the murders. Despite Babe's long career in crime, nothing in particular was made of it publicly at the time. Vegas's old-timer who didn't know of Barron's sinister past still recall him as just another colorful Sin City character. We owe a crucial revelation about the gangster general and the Playboy hairdresser to writer Barry Tannen, now a celebrated children's book author. While researching her breezy August 18, 2002 New York Times Magazine profile of Jay Sebring's forgotten legacy, she interviewed the barber Joe Torrentuva, Torrenueva, employed as an apprentice hairstylist at Sebring's salon when he was just 18 years old. Torrentuva earned a trusted place in the secretive Sebring operations. This gave Little Joe a front row seat in the Candyman's frequent fraternizing with major criminals. In the midst of Tannen's rather lighthearted essay lay one groundbreaking bombshell. When he learned that shortly after Torrenueva's boss ended up dead, both the FBI and the police came to interview Sebring's employee. They wanted to know about an intrigue phone call Las Vegas put through to Torreneva right before Sebring's death was announced. Joe said, the unidentified voice from Vegas, I don't know. I know you're worried. Listen, you're a good guy and you never hurt no one. No one's going to hurt you. 14 brief words that immediately revealed the thousands of pages of the Tate LaBianca trial transcripts, if the deceitful document of the show trial, that they are. And this have been reported. What had happened, the already risible notion of random victims at the press started pushing as soon as Manson was announced as ringleader of the death cult in December 1969, could never have gained much currency. And the most of the Sebring's friends and employees, Torreneva kept his silence about his paradigm-changing phone call for 33 years. Perhaps he only mentioned it to Tannen in 2002 because the lethal Baron was safely dead for a decade by then. Baron miraculously reached the ripe old age of 85 without some wise guy bumping him off. The last reservoir of the secrets of the Cielo Enigma were surely buried with him. Shortly after my many meetings with the celebrity profile journalist Tom O'Neill, far from an exchange of case-related information, he talked to Torreneva on his own barbershop. This time, Sebring's heir apparent revealed what the call he already told Tannen about was from none other than Charles Barron. He quoted to O'Neill's book, Chaos. Torreneva remembers the call slightly different than in his description to Tannen. The time he recalls that Barron told him, don't worry, little Joe, you're going to be all right. You don't have anything to anybody. Nobody's going to do anything to you. Torreneva also confirmed to O'Neill how close Sebring was to Barron, adding that the hairstyle was the nest of mobsters and criminals. He admired that he was frightened by the always armed Baron and that he was well aware of the murder of his murderous history. Contradicting what he told Tannen, the barber said that he feared supporting the call to law enforcement because Baron himself was right in with the cops. While Torreneva didn't go as far as Sebring's other associate, Jim Markham, in blatantly revealing Sebring's drug-dealing activities with the Spawn Squad, he did say that it wouldn't surprise him. He described the troubling incidents at Sebring's salon and made it clear why Sebring carried a gun at all times. Torreneva called that Sebring once even shot an unknown party at his Easton Drive home. He mentioned that the hairstylist employed security guards after unknown assailants invaded his Fairfax salon and assaulted the staff, an incident that sounds far all the world like an unpaid protection money visit. Confronting Polanski's 69 statements to the police about the many deaths hanging over the barber's well-coiffed head, Torreneva, I know I'm butchering his name, acknowledged that his boss was a bad businessman urgently in need of alternative cash flow. Now, if Torreneva, a lowly barber apprentice, knew all this right after the murders, how much more could Charles Barron have told one of the most trusted partners, Sidney Korshak, why Sebring was killed? With this in mind, we must wonder that Korshak knew by the time he sat down with Polanski at Paramount. What Korshak known was the man who keeps the secrets shares such incendiary information as Barron possessed with non-mob civilians like Polanski, Evans, or Gutowski. Furthermore, of all accounts, Polanski was being heavily guarded that day by police. The law enforcement privy to his sensitive discussion with one of the mob's most powerful players. Remember, at this time, Polanski was still a suspect in the murders. We only know the barest bones of what was discussed at the Paramount Summit. Thus, the name of the chapter. The question it raises far outnumbers the answers it provides. Then there is the most irrelevant matter of the FBI investigation into the shipment of narcotics suspected of being smuggled to Frykowski and Polanski from England, as mentioned earlier. Was Korshak's brief limited to curtailing public knowledge about the already open secret of Frykowski and Sebring's narcotics trafficking? Or did he successfully make another unknown legal challenges facing Polanski himself go away? 8 years later, in 1977, Korshak certainly did try to use his pull on the judiciary to help Polanski evade prosecution for his drugging and raping a 13-year-old Samantha Geitmer, Geimer. One of Korshak's many powerful friends was Lawrence Rittenband, the judge who held Polanski's fate in his hands on that sticky matter. They were colleagues in corruption since 1947, when Korshak filled the power vacuum left by the Bugsy Siegel demise. At meetings of the exclusive Hillcrest Country Club, the Hollywood power hub whose members protected each other with more loyalty than the Messianic Lodge, Korshak tried to convince Rittenband to go easy on Polanski. Was that later episode a sequel to the far more effective effort in '69, and yet another of the coincidences cluttering this case? Polanski pleaded guilty to the statutory rape charges on August 8th, 1977, the anniversary of his wife's murder. 1 year later, the anniversary of his wife's murder. Let's read that again. They were colleagues in the corruption of '47 when Korshak filled the power vacuum left by Bugsy Siegel's demise. At meetings in the exclusive Hillcrest Country Club, a Hollywood power hub whose members protected each other with more loyalty than any Masonic lodge, Korshak tried to convince Rittenband to go easy on Polanski. With that later episode, a sequel to a far more effective effort in '69, and yet another of the coincidences cluttering this case, Polanski pleaded guilty to the statutory rape charges on August 8th, '77, the anniversary of his wife's murders. We're going to end the chapter here because this is a long chapter. It's going to be 3 parts. And we're going to thank the vinyl community and the crime community and all the VC members. We pray for all our friends and families and enemies. And God bless the children of this world.